Some film sets feel a little intense. Some feel emotional. But then there are film sets where something else seems to move through the space. Something unseen. Something strange. And that's exactly what many cast and crew members say they experienced while filming The Passion of the Christ. A production surrounded not only by controversy, but by a series of eerie, unexplained events that many still refuse to talk about. Lightning that struck not once, but multiple times. Freak accidents mirroring scenes in the script. Visions, nightmares, mysterious fires. And the unsettling sense that something was quietly watching. Tonight, this is episode 3 in my Paranormal Case File series. And we're stepping into the hidden, haunting story behind one of the most emotionally intense films ever created. The Passion of the Christ, the strange phenomena surrounding this film. Welcome back to Lisa's Haunted Cottage, and welcome to another episode in my Paranormal Case Files series, where I take you inside the places, events, and moments where the veil feels just a little bit thinner. Hollywood has had its share of films rumored to be surrounded by strange energy: The Exorcist, The Omen, Poltergeist. But The Passion of the Christ is different. It wasn't marketed as a horror movie. It wasn't even marketed as a religious movie. It wasn't expected to spark paranormal stories. And yet, strange phenomena unfolded from the very beginning. So let's walk through everything piece by piece here. Now, before I begin, I'm going to throw in a little disclaimer. This movie, The Passion of the Christ, as I said, it wasn't marketed as a religious movie. However, the movie is about the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. So, if you're not religious and you don't have the belief that Jesus, died on the cross, or you don't have, some knowledge of the Bible and the crucifixion, then this may not be for you. However, I am discussing the events that happened during the filming. It does help to understand the events, or if you've at least seen the movie. If you have not seen this movie, I recommend it. As I've said before, I was raised Catholic. I still have those beliefs in me because I was raised that way. I still believe in God. I believe that Jesus was crucified on the cross. And as a kid, my grandmother every year watched the old version of some of this, Jesus of Nazareth. It was like a 6-part miniseries that she would watch every year. I would watch with her. She would get very emotional. She never made it to see this movie, and I don't think she would have survived it. The movie is very gruesome, but it's also very true to nature, strictly by the Bible. It's spoken in Aramaic and Latin. Mel Gibson is the one who, produced this movie and wanted to do the movie. Hollywood basically shunned him for this movie, so it was not marketed. It was actually marketed in churches, a lot of Catholic churches that I know of, and there were literally people watching it in the church. So there was no, commercials about it, nothing of that sort. But it is a great, very graphic film. If you believe in what happened, it's extremely emotional. I myself watch it every year. I think of my grandmother every year. I would actually watch more than once a year. I can't do it. It's so emotional. There are certain scenes in this that are too overwhelming for me. Okay, because I've done research before on the accuracy of the movie. There was a lot of controversy about this. Um, because Mel Gibson is the one that produced it. Um, Even Jim Caviezel, the actor who played Jesus in the movie, who was already pretty well known, and Mel Gibson said to him when he asked him to play Jesus in this movie, he said, "You could be shunned by Hollywood, and you probably will be. So, before you answer me, take that into consideration." Um, so Mel Gibson already knew what was happening and what would happen. But anyhow, so it helps to have that knowledge of what this is about. Um, but my video here is about the things that happened during the filming of this movie, because as I mentioned, there's been other films, The Exorcist and, Poltergeist and other movies that have had weird events happen during the filming. This one in particular, I've thought about doing this video on and off. I don't get many views right now, so figure, hey, what the hell? Because there are a lot of things that happened, especially with Jim Caviezel, which I will talk about. But anyway, I just wanted to put that disclaimer out there now. You can click off if it's not your thing. So anyhow, so I want to give you an idea of where the movie was made. It was shot almost entirely in Italy. The locations themselves carried that ancient eerie energy. Most of this took place in Matera, where they filmed, a stone city carved into cliffs and caves, one of the oldest continuously inhabited places in the world. Some scenes were filmed in Krakow, probably mispronouncing that, an abandoned ghost town perched on a hilltop, silent, desolate, and haunting. Portions of the crucifixion were filmed at a studio in Rome, one of Europe's most historic production studios. These locations alone created a powerful atmosphere. But for many on set, the atmosphere felt like it carried something else, something heavier, something watching. So actor Jim Caviezel was preparing for the Sermon on the Mount scene when a bolt of lightning struck him. His entire body lit up. Electricity traveled through his hair and fingers. He also stated on the Shawn Ryan Show here on YouTube that in this moment, he sort of left his body. And at the same time, the assistant director, Jan Michelini, was struck by lightning as well. And Jim Caviezel stated that it messed up this man's hand as the lightning hit his hand, because Jim Caviezel kind of saw it when it happened. But Jan Michelini, so he was struck by lightning the first time, but then it happened again, and he was struck a second time. I do believe he was holding an umbrella the second time it happened. So there were 3 lightning strikes on the making of this one film. The odds of that happening are pretty much almost non-existent. If you think of even being struck by lightning, the odds of that being struck once But this man who was struck twice, it's completely crazy. The person that experienced the most trauma, and I'm calling it trauma, yes, I am, during the making of this film was Jim Caviezel. He endured a long list of bizarre injuries, many unfolding in the exact moments their scenes required suffering. He suffered a separated shoulder after the weight of the wooden cross suddenly shifted and slammed down on him. The cross weighed reportedly over 100 pounds and was dropped onto him unexpectedly as he was carrying it. The impact tore muscles and partially dislocated his shoulder. He also endured accidental lashes, including one that left a 14-inch welt. Now let me stop here for a minute. By lash, I mean during the scourging scenes, if you're unfamiliar what this is, it's like, I hesitate to even describe it because it's horrifying, and it's the most horrifying scene in that movie. Before Jesus was even put onto the cross, they tortured him. Okay, he was tortured. They took the scourging instruments, which are like, it's like he was lashed, okay, on his back and in the front also, not just his back, basically everywhere. Imagine like a big fish hook, like a big fishing lure that's got multiple hooks on the bottom of it. They also had some that were like a round ball with, metal spikes around the edge of it. So they had different instruments they would do this with. In this particular scene, he's being tortured. He's both standing and kneeling, depending on how far into the scene, we are. And what they did when they were filming this is they took a big plastic piece of like plexiglass and they put it over his back so that when the guys would, the actors would hit him, none of those things are making contact with his skin to actually injure him. But what happened on this particular incident was the guy that was whipping him with this missed the mark and actually gouged him with this, weapon. So that left a 14-inch welt on his back. He also suffered pneumonia and hyperthermia, persistent migraines. The hyperthermia, now, he spent a lot of time up on the cross when they were filming. So he was just wearing a cloth, around the bottom of him. That was it. It was cold at the time, so that's where the hypothermia comes in. But the most dangerous complication came during the crucifixion scenes. Jim Caviezel began experiencing abnormal heart rhythms. He described it as AFib, erratic spikes that left him weak and barely conscious. He described it as feeling like his heart was being crushed. Even though he was feeling all of this, the hypothermia, the heart issues, he kept going. He kept filming. Doctors eventually diagnosed stress-induced tachycardia and heart strain, a condition that could have been fatal. And at one point, Caviezel admitted he feared he might actually die on the cross. So these weren't staged moments. These were actual real medical emergencies. Years later, Jim Caviezel revealed just how serious the long-term effects were. On the Shawn Ryan Show, he shared that he required heart-related surgeries both in 2009 and 2014. Procedures he connected to the physical trauma, lightning strike, extreme cold, and relentless stress he endured during filming. I believe he stated that the lightning strike is what kind of finally, really made that heart issue much, much worse. And he said the lightning strike was actually, I believe he said, on the last day of filming. So he had those 2 heart operations. And on the second heart operation, he ended up having a near-death experience. If you're not familiar with a near-death experience, many of those happen during surgeries. People die, they leave their body, they can see what's going on. They come, they might have an experience of a spiritual nature. They might see angels, talk to God, their loved ones, etc. So during the second heart surgery, he said he slipped out of consciousness. He felt himself leaving his body, and he entered what he described as a place of profound peace. It was an experience that stayed with him emotionally, spiritually, and physically. He didn't claim the surgeries happened immediately after production, but the damage from filming clearly followed him for years. The emotional weight, the physical strain, the injuries, the lightning, the cold, it all left a lasting mark on his body and perhaps on something deeper. And during the Sermon on the Mount scene, a sudden fire broke out, spreading fast, moving in strange, unpredictable patterns. No one was seriously hurt, but the unease on the set grew. Fire can symbolize transformation or warning, and on this set, it felt very much like both. Also, actor Luca Lionello, who played Judas, experienced something deeply unsettling. At the time, he identified as an atheist, but during the hanging scene, he walked off set, pale, shaking, and unable to continue. He had said that he had seen something, a presence, a vision, something dark, something overwhelming. After production ended, Lionello converted to Christianity. Whatever he encountered changed him permanently. Crew members also reported sudden sadness, emotional heaviness, nightmares, anxiety, dizziness, and the feeling of being watched. These sensations intensified during scenes of betrayal, violence, and grief. A place doesn't need a ghost to feel haunted. Sometimes the emotions alone is enough to saturate the air. And this film carried some of the heaviest emotional energy imaginable. Even the animals were feeling it. Horses refusing to move when they wanted them to move. Dogs growling, suddenly anxious. Birds reacting sharply to certain moments. Animals sense energy long before humans sense energy. And whatever was there, whatever was happening, the animals seemed to feel it. So, what exactly was happening during the filming of The Passion of the Christ? Do you think it was coincidence, psychological stress, emotional immersion, or something unseen responding to the story being recreated? Trauma, especially spiritual trauma, can change a space, almost like the memory itself begins to wake up. Whether this was emotion, spirit, or something in between, that remains the mystery at the heart of this case. Now, as usual, I like to insert my thoughts. I'm going to try and keep it quick. um, Putting aside what this movie was about, I guess, though, it's kind of hard to put that aside when you're, looking at the events that occurred here. You know, an easy way to get a better understanding of this is to watch that Shawn Ryan episode with Jim Caviezel. I'll try to link it down below. He explains much of this. Because he explains, how he was asked to be in the movie, what was going on in his life before the movie, and the fact that, he felt led to do the movie. He felt God, wanted him to do the movie. And he was already Catholic, okay? So he's already a believer. As a Catholic, his faith is very strong. And I was telling somebody earlier that I just love Jim Caviezel. And he does have this profound sense of peace when he's speaking. He's very grounded and centered, and I believe it's his faith that does that for him. So here's this actor who knew, pretty much that Hollywood would shun him if he did this movie. And according to him, he was on the list, how they do things in Hollywood. They're put on a list, for actors. He had done films before this, different shows. I already knew who he was before I saw this movie, because I think he's very well known. And he did, in fact, say that as soon as he agreed to do this movie, he was kind of shunned in Hollywood. And that's a whole Hollywood thing, and he does go over this on the Shawn Ryan Show, about kind of I don't know, I can't think of a better word other than like politics. The politics of Hollywood, I don't know what you would call it, but they try to put them in, oh, you're doing this, religious film. Well, then nobody else is going to want you, for any other movies. He did do another one after this. That was a really good movie. It was about a true story. But anyway, when he was asked by Mel Gibson to do this, he knew the risk, okay? And he did it anyway because he believed he was being called by God to do this movie. Now, when Jesus, the whole crucifixion, it's pure torture. And I've read before that there's been research done on this by scientists, doctors, you name it, that really no human being would have survived what Jesus survived. So that in itself, so this whole entire movie is about someone suffering, okay? And here comes Jim Caviezel to play Jesus in the movie, and he went through so much suffering during this filming, and yet he kept going. Having hypothermia, having heart issues. He said he ended up, they gave him antibiotics, and he was pretty much on them nonstop for the hypothermia alone. But he was willing to suffer to make this movie. And I think that's extremely powerful. He said the strange thing was also when Mel Gibson asked him to, to make this movie, he said, I just realized my initials are JC and I'm 33 years old. Um, much like Jesus Christ, who was said to have been 33 when he was crucified. Coincidence? I don't know. I tend not to believe in them, but anyhow, I'm going to throw my little tidbits in there about these weird, events and how I see them. The lightning strikes, like, as I said before, lightning strikes are not that common. And for one man to get hit twice, and for Jim Caviezel to get hit, that's a lot. It's a lot. When I was doing research for this, there was someone else that did a video on this that said they also had numerous technical difficulties. Okay. So I think it's powerful when it's more powerful. It makes more of a statement when it's not just one person having the experience. It's multiple people. It's multiple people, and that's what happened, in the making of this film. Now, we can talk about, typically we might talk about residual energy or the spiritual energy, as I mentioned, but this was not filmed in Jerusalem, where the actual crucifixion took place, according to the Bible. It was filmed in Italy, okay? You can think about the fact of, the energy from the actors and what they were thinking about. All of that's getting thrown out there, okay? Your thoughts are creating energy, and that's getting all thrown out there. But I don't think it would have that much impact to cause the lightning strikes and the other things, that happened. Excuse me, here we go. Happens every time. I apologize. And then we have Jim Caviezel's near-death experience during his surgery. So there's so many things that went on during this film. And do I believe that there could have been a spiritual force, I'll say, the other side, not the good side, the bad side, that didn't want this to be filmed? I'm going to throw that out there. That's my personal belief, okay? Of course, everybody has the right to believe what they want. I have done research on this throughout the years since I've seen the movie, since I heard the first thing about something had happened during the filming. I know from personal experience investigating the paranormal, being in people's houses, having certain, audio recordings, EVP recordings, where we were trying to figure out what was going on in the house or in the location, and weird things would try to stop. There were times where I felt like there was something trying to stop us. I remember there was one investigation that we did, and I was trying to send somebody on my investigation team. I was trying to send them an EVP that I had captured, and I kid you not, I would try to send it, and it would come back, or it wouldn't send, or finally, I went, okay, I know what's going on here. Something's trying to stop me from sending this to them so that they can listen to it. And I got a candle, lit the candle, I said a prayer, and honestly, I felt silly doing it, but it was the only thing I could think of that there was left to do, because I thought, damn, like, I'm never going to get this sent. They're never going to be able to hear this, you know, um, unless I, try to do something here. I had restarted my computer. Like, I had tried everything, and it was, it was just stupid. Normally I'd attach the EVP, to the email, and it would send immediately. This particular time, nope. That thing did not want to go through. The email wouldn't send. I'd get a error message, whatever. So finally I was like, okay, I know what's going on here. Something's trying to stop me. So I grabbed the candle, I lit the candle, I said a prayer, I asked to be allowed to send the EVP through the email, and I did that, and it sent right through. So, a lot of people would call this, spiritual warfare. Do I believe in it? Definitely. Oh, definitely. There's definitely a balance of good and evil. You can't know one without the other. Okay? That's how the universe works, in nature. There's got to be balance. If there wasn't dark, you wouldn't know what light is, and vice versa. So, I definitely believe that there was a force here that that did not want this film to come out. For whatever reason, I wholeheartedly believe that. So that's my take on it. Let me know your opinions. Let me know your thoughts below. Because I love to hear other people's opinions and thoughts. So from lightning and fires to visions, injuries, surgeries, nightmares, and emotional disturbances, this film became a place where story and reality blurred in haunting ways. Thank you for joining me for episode 3 in my Paranormal Case Files series, The Passion of the Christ, the strange phenomena surrounding this film. If you enjoy true paranormal case files, haunted locations, and the unexplained, be sure to subscribe and stay close to the candlelight here at Lisa's Haunted Cottage. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and keep your intuition open. You never know what shadows might be nearby.